I think music or art of any kind of humbles us all because there's always something to learn. I'm Andrew Jossa. I'm a Yellowknife piano player, sound tech, lighting tech, projection tech, broadcast tech. Yeah, I wear many hats. I mean, that is always the goal, is to have a light enough hand that people don't notice you terribly. But yeah, I do sometimes refer to the sound tech as the unseen fifth member of the band. The sound tech really can shape the sound in a huge way. As you say, in a way that a lot of people wouldn't even notice, but it can have a huge impact on the sound. And frankly, I really love that support role. I really like doing whatever I can to help someone else shine. Coming from being a performer myself, I've been a musician longer than I've been a sound tech. I know that when you're about to go up on stage and perform, you have a lot of stuff to worry about. You got all your lyrics and your chords and your notes, and all of that is going around in your head. So if I, as a sound tech, can take anything off a musician's plate, if I can just make it easy and so they don't have to worry about the sound and they can just focus on delivering the best performance, then I will have done my job. Musicians make the best sound techs and sound techs make the best musicians because you just understand what it's like to be on either side of that soundboard. Working as a sound tech has just given me more opportunity to just really listen and really pay attention. And then that, of course, is going to pay off when I'm playing music, because so much of playing music with other people is listening. It's 90% listening, 10% playing probably. So we are joining you from my shed, as I call it. It is a heated space, despite being a shed. It's a nice 16 degrees in here maybe right now. It used to be a woodworking shop, and I still do a little bit of woodworking, but mostly I've taken it over with all of my music gear and occasionally having rehearsals or even just practicing myself in here. On this wall behind us here, we can see some of my synthesizers and creations. So some of these obviously were purchased, but some of them, like I'll grab this one because it's nice and clear. You can see right through it. So you can see my little sloppy soldering job there on the bottom, and then soldered together a few little switches and pots that just make little synthesizer beeps and boops. And so yeah, you can see pretty much everything on these shelves here were made by myself. It was one of my main sort of quarantine pandemic projects. We all had our pandemic hobbies. That's exactly what this is. I'm pretty sure I found this in the storage section of Canadian Tire, just as a little plastic storage box, but I thought the clear box was a good pick. So that's an equal part of it. Other than the making the little components on the inside, there's also the vessel. So you can see a Power Rangers themed paint set here, and then of course the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was broken before I gutted it and used it as a shell. Yeah, I've been playing piano particularly from a very early age, but not very seriously really until probably high school, grade 11, grade 12, where I had a particularly good band teacher, Bill Gilday, who many people will recognize that name. So that's really what got me into jazz and performing, and threw together a little high school band. So we were playing in bars before we could even legally drink in bars. And that was a big reason, that having that very good band teacher was a big reason why I went off to university to study jazz. So I did go away and study jazz down in British Columbia. And then I came back. And coming back was, I really think, the best move I've ever made for my music career, whatever that means. Yellowknife really does have an incredible music scene, especially just in terms of arts per capita and artists per capita. Yellowknife is off the charts. And the fact that I'm able to make a living as a self-employed musician and sound tech in Yellowknife really is quite special. I'm very grateful for that. As I mentioned earlier, and I have this space. I happen to have this space where I can practice and rehearse and build my weird little toys. I've been into jazz since just high school there, and then through jazz kind of got into funk and soul. I've been in many bands over the years, but most of them have had some element of funk or soul. Even the one time I was in a rock band, I brought some of that funk element and snuck it into the band. So I've always brought that kind of flavor. I don't get to play actual jazz that often these days. Mostly I play funk and pop covers and whatnot. So This Christmas I'll be playing some jazz for the first time in a couple of years with the music of Charlie Brown, the famous, truly a famous, iconic jazz album. This is the soundtrack to the Charlie Brown Christmas special, TV special. And so, yeah, we're practicing up that music, and we're going to go and play a couple of nights of jazz, which will be good fun. That's with a high school friend of mine, Sean Robson, who I went to jazz school with. We both went to high school here in the North, and we both went to jazz school in British Columbia, and now we're back here in the North, playing jazz every now and then. My other main project, my other main band at the moment is a jazz fusion band, playing sort of a jazz, funk, fusion, rock elements, all kinds of stuff there, and that's really satisfying as well. It's really satisfying to play this really challenging genre of music at a very high level with these other phenomenal Yellowknife musicians. Norm Glowich, Pat Brain, Tyler Hawkins. These are Yellowknife musician royalties. So I'm very happy to be able to play with them too. So the projections thing was something I sort of fell into by accident. I started out looking at analog film glitching, using VHS tapes and then some glitching or some distortion and ways to kind of modify those signals. And that is some of the devices here that you see. First of all, whenever you as an artist feel stagnating, or like you just aren't really making any progress, or you kind of plateau and you've sort of been at the same level for a while, I think the best cure for it is to just do something different. So whether that's different instruments, I started collecting instruments was the first step. If you look around the shed, you'll see guitars and drums and percussion instruments and all kinds of other instruments that, can give you a little bit of that, just something different, something new. Even more so if you can explore other art forms. I still don't consider myself much of a visual artist, despite the fact that I've done a fair bit at this point, which is very funny. I just have such a strong association to being a music artist, but bringing in some visual elements has really married well with any of the music stuff I've been doing. It's something I've been thinking about for a long time, starting with just a little bit of lighting. If you really get intentional with the lighting, you can really elevate a performance. Initially, when I started looking at video glitching and ways to get some of these interesting visuals to accompany music or a music video, the first thing I tried, of course, is you run a video signal through a distortion pedal. Many people have tried this before, and they'll find out immediately that it doesn't work because your video signal out of a VCR is working on vastly different frequencies to the sound signal out of a guitar. So this doesn't work, but there's a circuit very similar to this that does work. You just need to buy a couple of chips and resistors online and solder them together. And so that was really the genesis of the video glitching, was what if, in the same way that you can run your audio through effects and reverb and distortion, what if we can do some of those same things with video? And then even more recently than that, I got into doing some more sort of projections type stuff where we're actually really shaping a show by having some projections onto the band in a way that transforms a performance from just being something you sit and listen to being a fully engaging all of the senses type experience. And the feedback for that has been really great. So that's absolutely worth continuing to do, to think about all of these different elements that go into a show instead of just the music aspects of it. Think about the lighting, poster design, ticket design, projections, what's going to be up on the TVs, all of these elements. So initially it was a video glitching project, and I found the more I worked on it, the types of things I was drawn to weren't the sort of angular lines outputs, but the more sort of goopy, organic shapes, and a little bit of that spontaneity. The jazz music and the jazz fusion music, very improvised bass, and often you'll find something will come out that you couldn't have predicted and that you possibly can't even recreate if you ever try to recreate it again or do another take. And both the video glitching and the liquid light stuff has huge elements of that unpredictability, that sort of striking gold, and just sort of this beautiful little thing that happens in the moment and then it's gone, not to be recreated. Because those were the elements I was really drawn to with the video glitching, the liquid light thing was just sort of the next logical step there. And it's even more analog, if you will, whereas I'd been dealing with analog electronics. This is going full analog and literally just a dish of water, with a light table, some oil dyes, and some liquid dyes, spinning around those globules and those liquid shapes and those organic shapes, and then capturing it. Traditionally, it would have been done with an overhead projector, but I've opted for a webcam mounted above the table, which allows me a little bit more control and zoom and all of that. But at its core, it is still that analog effect. Yeah, the time-lapse was also something I sort of fell into by accident. Time-lapse is a really interesting way to experience life on a different time scale. I had some old Canon PowerShoot cameras, and you can get some software onto them that makes them shoot time lapses, and because they're just these old cheap cameras, I don't mind if they get rained on or something like that. So I started putting cameras out, and speaking to the liquid light thing, obviously I get drawn to certain things, and clouds is probably one of the main ones. We have a lot of sky up here in the north. We don't have a lot of mountains, so we have a lot of sky, and so may as well capitalize on that and focus on the sky a bit, because the sky really does some truly spectacular things sometimes. And then the next part is just trying it a whole bunch. And sometimes I get a camera roll of thousands of photos of just gray, and that just goes in the trash. But every now and then you sort of strike gold. Very much like if you're improvising playing music or with the liquid light projections, you just sort of strike gold sometimes, and you just hope that you can capture it and then keep refining it and hoping to strike gold a little more often. There was one time lapse I did on solstice. It just happened, as I said, sometimes you just luck out, and it just so happened that on this solstice day, I set up my camera to catch sunset, and I walked away and left my camera and went to bed. And the next morning I found that I had captured not only sunset, but also sunrise 4 hours later or something like that, because it was the longest day of the year, of course. I had also captured possibly some of the best clouds I've ever captured. So the sky really was a co-creator on that one. I can't take all the credit. That original solstice time-lapse video of the clouds, just filmed from my upstairs deck here. I then sat down at the Fender Rhodes electric piano that I have here in the shed, and I had the video just on my phone, just in front of me there. Just started playing along to it, kind of improvising, but after a couple of takes, something kind of emerged that was a melody, if you will. An improvised melody, and a melody that I'm kind of doing a little theme and variations on, like you would in classical music. Influenced by what I was seeing on this time lapse and trying to match the arc with the intensity and the arc of this time lapse, especially when the sun finally breaks free from the horizon and shoots up into the sky, and these brilliant rays shoot out, and the whole piece just sort of opens up. So that was originally just a solo composition that I did to this time lapse. I later brought that composition to the band, Cold Fusion, my jazz fusion band. We did a full band version of it, which of course is very different than the original solo piano version, but each version kind of exists in its own world. Performed that a few times as a band, and most recently at our show where we had projections, we had liquid light projections happening, so we already had a projector set up. We were able to play that piece with that original time-lapse footage that inspired that piece being projected on the back wall, and you could see the clouds flittering along as we played that piece. So that was very much a full circle moment. So that was an example of me being influenced by what I was seeing. I was influenced by what I was seeing, and that was directly influencing what I was playing. And when we're playing music, we're all influenced by lots of things, positively and negatively. Maybe there's a moment of distraction where someone drops a glass and it breaks, and that influences us. But generally, we're positively influenced when we're playing music by everything happening all around us. The energy of the crowd, the little psychic signals all the band members are sending each other, especially if you've played together for a while, you start to develop this little body language and psychic language amongst the musicians. And so we're all influenced by each other, and then that elevates the performance. Similarly, we're influenced by visual elements, and that was the whole genesis of that Cold Fusion Psychedelia show with the live liquid light projections, where the musicians are improvising and we're influenced by what we're seeing, what's being projected on the wall behind us. We had an interpretive dancer, Fia Gregono, dance for a few numbers as well, so we were influenced by what we were seeing from her dancing, and she was improvising the dance based on what she was hearing. That continues. You're sort of influenced by each other, and you just sort of keep going higher and higher and just chasing an idea to the logical conclusion. And it creates this positive feedback loop, which I just love that idea. In sound tech and audio world, usually feedback is bad, right? Feedback is the screeching of a microphone when you get too close to a speaker. So we're always trying to avoid feedback in the audio world, but in this case, this positive feedback loop of influencing each other and being influenced by different art forms, and then just so on and so forth. What fascinates me about some of these that are knob-based is you end up with something very different than what you would get on a piano. A piano is bound by having these 12 equal temperament keys, whereas as soon as you're using a knob, or as in the case with a theremin, you're just waving your hands in front of a sensor, you can access all of the pitches in between those 12 pitches of equal temperament or Western music. And as soon as you're changing the mechanism by which you're interacting with an instrument, you just get different things out of it. The other thing I will say too is there's not really a wrong way to get to the final answer. So having come from a piano background, having gone to school for music, I can read sheet music, but I've played in bands with people that can't read sheet music, but they're phenomenal guitar players. They just play by ear, they pick things up just like that, even quicker than I do. So there also isn't necessarily a hierarchy of how you got to the finish line. There's different ways to get there. I would say that it's good to be able to do a bit of both. It's good to be able to read sheet music. If someone puts a piece of paper in front of you, it's good to be able to pick something up by ear if you just hear it. But whatever gets you there in the end, really, yeah. I don't know what's next. Whatever kind of grabs my interest, I suppose. Definitely working more with projections, even getting into projection mapping. I'd love to get into projection mapping. I haven't really dabbled in that much yet, as well as more elaborate lighting options. I have a lot of lighting options. I have a lot of lights, stage lights and lighting controllers. I even have a lighting controller that syncs to the beat automatically, so I don't need to be behind a lighting board. I can just focus on playing piano. But there's always more to do in that space. I found recently a lighting controller, a DMX lighting controller that can take HDMI in, so you can just really easily incorporate some of the colors from whatever you're projecting or whatever you have on a TV or time-lapse or video or whatever it is you're using. You can have some lights that'll react to that and mirror that. So there's always new options and new ways to continue trying to deliver this cohesive experience of light, music, sound, movement. It's nice to think about possibly inspiring other people as well to make their own art, and it doesn't have to be on stage. It doesn't have to be a big performance. You can just make art for the heck of it, or maybe as a little gift to give to someone for Christmas. For whatever reason, make art to build a skill, make art to fulfill something in yourself or get something out there onto the page. Even as simple as at the Cold Fusion Psychedelia gig, we gave out some psychedelic coloring pages, various Mandela and other groovy coloring pages and some crayons, and we had people coloring as we played our music. If anyone was inspired to make art that way. And just judging by some of the papers that were left behind, a lot of people were inspired.